Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Weber, and welcome to my summit, Your Soul's Journey, Transform Your Life by Using Your Divinely Given Intuition. And with me today is Karen Garvey. Hi, Karen.
Hi, it's good to see you.
It's very good to see you. So I'm going to do a little introduction here, and I have your bio. I want to just give people a little bit of background on you before we get started on our topic here of intuition. So after obtaining her MBA, Karen Garvey acquired extensive business experience, and on 9/11, she received simultaneous information about what was occurring. Her first experience, something of not thoroughly earthly means, occurred for her then. So over time, Karen discovered how to intentionally attune to this connection. And presently, she is a coach, she's an author, and she helps people to success, bring them to success in their life. And so thank you again for joining me on this summit. I really appreciate you taking the time here. And so I have to ask you what happened on 9/11 and what was that about?
Yeah, that is how it really was the beginning for me, or the beginning of knowing something. Um,
Okay.
I went out for a run that morning. I was working, I had my own business at that time, so I was working out of my home, and I would run 3 or 4 mornings a week. And when I got back to my house and I was punching the key code into the garage door opener, I'm about an hour from Manhattan, so certainly
Okay.
not within sight distance.
Yeah.
I experienced what was happening at the World Trade Center.
Really?
I didn't, I put it out of my mind, and just, I admonished myself really quickly, like, what a horrible thing to,
Oh, yeah. To
thought
think.
I was at fault. But by the time the garage door went up, my phone was ringing, someone was telling me to turn on the TV. So I turned on the TV and saw simultaneously on the television what I was experiencing in the driveway.
Really?
Strange, because I had an understanding that I knew more than the broadcaster knew. Like, I
Okay.
knew, I just had more thoroughness. He was saying that it looked like a small plane had gotten off its course, and I knew that wasn't true. I knew that there was more to come. I knew that it was pre-planned. I knew that it was an act of terrorism.
You did.
The knowingness was
Yeah.
a surprise, and then watching, the world and the news catch up to what I already knew. So for me, I had so much been focused on things that had to do with academic performance and
Mm-hmm.
intelligence and analytical reasoning and everything with logic. So
Mm-hmm.
this was such a thorough opportunity for me to see that there's more to life than what it is that we suppose. And after that
Right.
moment, I never go back to feeling finite or disconnected from more, or believing that my consciousness is sewn into my body. So it
Yes.
really changed my trajectory and my perception about what was possible. And that was,
Amazing.
that was the beginning.
So before that time, you hadn't had experiences like that before, something that you could not explain, and knowing that you could not have explained at that point in your life.
No, when
Not to that degree, I guess.
Not at all. Not at
Yeah.
all. One or
Wow.
two little tiny things, like
Yeah.
popping in my head that a cousin's baby was born, and even though it was 3 months early, but you just think like, oh, what a neat thing! High five somebody. What a coincidence!
Uh-huh.
Out of it, but
Yeah.
it's not enough to make you ponder. It's just an
Wow.
interesting moment. Nothing of that magnitude.
Yeah. So, well, that's really interesting, and that it makes me sort of, well, it makes me want to know. Okay, so this intuition, and as I've been talking to the different speakers on this summit, we've been, we all have our different experience of it, what it's like, what it feels like, how we get it, how we see it, and whatnot, how the information comes. For me as an intuitive, I always had things like this happen, but it was weird because I didn't know what I was doing. I
Right.
didn't know what was happening at the time. And I still prefer to use my intellect
Yes.
and my brain and my
Yes.
mind, however you want to say it, and think my way through problems, because I didn't know that that was an access for me. I just didn't know
Yes.
that I had stuff coming, and it was informative, and it was good for me to use, and I didn't know it. I just wasn't using it. I just wasn't aware that that was something that I even needed to do. So yeah, my life was really difficult up until that point. I figured it out. But but for you, which is real, it's really interesting. It sounds to me like maybe this was happening to you, or to some small degree that you were having some intuition or not, but you were really not aware of it. And then until boom, until that incident, and then from there, what opened up for you at that point?
And what made it interesting too, I think the bigness of it, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, I knew something I didn't have earthly means to know. It's necessary for me, because I was probably one of those annoying people on the other side that like, no, that's not possible. No, books. No, let's go, look this up.
Yeah.
It had to happen in a way that I couldn't unknow it.
That's
and
right.
that, being a New Yorker, no matter where you lived, 9/11 affected you.
Yes.
But being a New Yorker and within commuting distance of Manhattan, of course, we knew people who knew people that were affected directly. So for a good year and a half after, there was not any particular focus for me to say what that meant personally or what I could do with it. The only thing that I did know is that I had an unexplainable sense of hope when everybody else was feeling chaos.
Okay.
And I attributed it to the simultaneous nature of me experiencing what was happening.
Yeah.
And I was able to kind of share that feeling of hope with other people. I don't know why or how, but I was. Eventually, as that chaos settled down and we got more into a routine again, then I started to have simultaneous happenings that I would experience all over the globe. And it was always at the same exact time that something was happening, like a tsunami or an explosion or an accident or a murder. And 100% accuracy would always appear that day through a phone call, or it would appear at latest the next day in the newspaper, and that's how we would find out about the event. But more interesting than that, I mean, I felt like a parlor trick. People like,
I see.
and she tell us, but it didn't have real value except this knowingness. But it did start to transform in, I would say, it felt as if I had a narrator with me explaining not what happened, I could see what happened, but explaining why it happened.
Oh, why?
It's like someone had given me the keys to the meaning of life, and everything about life was being explained through these conscious explorations that I was having.
Okay, so this is really an interesting perspective, because you were not only getting the what was happening, but you were getting the why. So you got why. Interesting. Would you care to explain, did you get the why for 9/11? Did you?
9/11, I got the why after I intentionally turned my focus onto how to open up this connection as a two-way street, not just be a receiver, but to be able to say, I have questions, I would like to open this, I would like to be part of it. So when I was able to make this a conversation instead of just a receipt, then I did ask about the why of 9/11. The others were, the reason that I really turned my attention to clearing the conduit and making sure that it was reliable and accurate, and almost with a very, very scientific approach to do that. But the reason that I was so passionate about doing that was because I had had a really difficult childhood, and the things that I was hearing about why stuff happens on Earth and how we intersect and what the meaning of life is and how we're souls having these bodies and the development of the soul and growth, and there's nothing random. And as I was getting all of this information and applying it to myself, I was making sense of what chaotic events had happened for me. And I was letting go of pain, and I was feeling forgiveness, and I was feeling a comprehension of the journey. So I found myself getting happier, and that I would share with, which was very, very few people, because I didn't want anyone thinking I was nutty. The people that I would share with were starting to get happier, and that was that I really pursued it.
So, now this is a very interesting, a point of view, or not even really a point of view, but what's happening for you is quite different, because a lot of times, I will receive information, but I get information to share, or a message I'm supposed to give. That's more or less how this occurs for me. Now, I don't know the why. And sometimes I'm saying something and I don't even know how I know. I just know. But I'll share that with someone. And then I kind of shrug my shoulders, like, I don't even know what that means. So I hope it means something for you, but so I can't even explain the why most of the time. So for you, for your knowledge, the receipt of what you get is why. And that is, I'm almost like, almost jealous of that, because I don't get the why. I don't get,
touch my finger, it'll pass.
So, I mean, of course, it begs the question, I mean, the big one, right? Why? Why did 9/11 happen? And did you get a clear answer for that one?
Yes, and it's one that I think a lot of people are starting to kind of slip into, and knowingness of it is that everything really does have purpose, and we are on an individual pursuit of remembering our soul's journey, but we're also on a collective pursuit of helping one another to understand that we're all connected, and that the only thing that matters, and it's not even corniness to say this anymore, but the only thing that matters is love. Absolutely. Loving oneself, loving each other, acting from that vibration, trying to pursue everything that it is that you think and do in your actions through the lens of love. And that's what we're designed to do. And that's what we're designed to appreciate, that the worth and the value is more important than anything. And as we separate from that vibration, or we separate from soulful knowledge individually or collectively, we're going to be given opportunities to remember the vastness of it, to get ourselves back on track, to interpret events from the lens of possibility rather than the lens of being destitute. And that's one of the goals. And sometimes the event is very big, and sometimes the event is very small. Sometimes it's just for you and your immediate family. Sometimes it's a neighborhood. Sometimes it's a region. This one was global enough. And in the scheme of things, historically, there weren't really that many people involved in it in comparison to historical moments that we were asked to wake up and take ownership of the fact that, we're not supposed to be harming each other. We're not supposed to be having war. We're not supposed to be controlling one another. That these things are not in the vibration of love. Mm-hmm. And so the objective was that it was such a large event. The consciousness of it affected, pretty much the whole globe to one form or another. It allowed those who were ready for a moment to say, I want to think about life differently. I can't take this as an absolute of darkness. I have to see this as a pathway to possibility. Mm-hmm. And those that were able to do that started to step into becoming points of light for other people, or at least points of light for themselves, to activate the idea that we are drivers of our own journey. Our consciousness can direct the outcome. And if we all tap into the same discovery of being able to form outcomes that are aligned with love, we'll do it. Yeah. And so it was sort of like a big kickoff event. But there were so many things in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s, and so on, that were kickoffs for that and kickoff for the next decade. So nothing stands in isolation. It's just a continuation of the same way that the universe is trying to help us to become aware and to become awake.
To wake up. Yes. Absolutely. And that, so what I hear from this, what I gather, and also, I mean, this has been a topic, I bring up periodically throughout the summit, is, we're going through a lot of turmoil right now, as throughout the world, particularly in our country. With this election, there's a lot going on. There are a lot of heated moments. There are a lot of, I think things that are sparking up and occurring because of the election, and also the dialogue that's coming up and out of it. And also just with the schools, the children in the schools, and I have 2 young children, and when I drop them off, I say a prayer every time when I leave the campus, because it's one of those things now in our society. When we leave our children at school, we hope to God that we can pick them up again. So it's just it's a tumultuous time, and it's a scary time. But it also, we have to say something about how we're living, and how we're isolating ourselves from each other and how we're separating ourselves from each other, and within families, and then within communities, and then within, states, countries. It's like, we need to wake up and see each other as one, not differentiate and separate so much, and connect.
Right.
I think so much of what is happening is that we see ourselves separate and different from one another, and we're judging and isolating each other from one another, and looking at someone as if they're so entirely different that they could even be evil or wrong, which creates this stuff that's happening that doesn't need to happen, does not need to happen. I think what you're saying, even with the 9/11 and with the wars that are occurring, they don't even have to happen. They don't have to happen.
Thinking that way.
They don't.
Yes.
It's so unnecessary.
Yes.
It's absolutely and completely unnecessary.
Sorry. There's always a different way to look at things. There
really is.
Yeah, and there's steps that have to be taken in order to go from, chaos to peace and from hate to love. But the steps can be taken if we all put our minds to it and we take actions to get there. It's interesting you said about dropping off your kids, because one of the, as I was saying, how 9/11 is designed to help us wake up, but it did cause a lot of people to become even more myopic or more have a feeling of isolation. And one of the things I point out in seminars very frequently is that in today's world, fear is the new hate. Hate in the world anymore, but at least we know we're not going to be able to live in a way where we're communicating terrible things about people because of their religion or their class or their sexuality or anything or skin color. We just can't do that. Of course, people are doing it, but more and more are taking ownership of that. That's not acceptable, or more and more acceptable.
And they're being called out when they do.
Wonderful.
Right.
But fear, the challenge with fear is that it still is the absence of love, as hate is the absence of love, but we encourage fear. Collectively, we encourage it. And you feel like this when you drop your kids off is because we're encouraged to believe that our kids are not safe. So I spend a great amount of time in all of my work in coaching and book writing and seminars, helping people to move away from fear. Because we can't tap into full self-love, and we can't tap into our full power unless we let go of that collective conversation of being afraid.
Right.
Everything is created by energy, the energy of your thinking, your feelings, your beliefs, the action that you take. Everything is energy. And if our energy is going to fear and feeling unprotected and unsafe, and we're giving away our power because we're trying to protect ourselves, instead of taking our power back by living fully and happily and freely and feeling safe and wonderful and healthy, then we're never going to get to the point where we love ourselves fully and we can move from chaos to joy and freedom.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you, I can't agree with you more. That feeling, it's when, you read the news and another thing that happened, and then all of a sudden you're like, if that was just right down the road, oh my gosh, and so then you go like, what about my children, or, what about my community? Oh my gosh. And so you start going, can I take them to school? Can I not take, what's happening? And then you start realizing that you're not even living in the moment anymore.
Yes.
That was just, so I do, it's hard not to watch the news. I don't actually watch the news on TV, but you've got, every device has some sort of pop-up, and there it is, it's like, crap, I didn't want to even read it. And there it is,
I have a page that I created on Facebook, the Enlightenment Power Group it's called, and it's a good news channel, and people who belong, all they do is post good stories.
That's nice. I love that.
There's controversy going on between a police officer and an unarmed man.
Yes.
They'll put up a video of police officers in a all black community, white police officers, helping
doing something good,
stuff like that. We have to balance. The media is it's functioning from the same operand that or operative that the government is operating from. If there's money in it, we're going to give it to you regardless of what the long-term result is.
That's
not
right.
the ownership of what fear is doing to people, their health and their level of anxiety or their level of kindness to one another.
Absolutely.
But anxiety
Absolutely.
is on the rise now because of the media and the government fear.
Yeah. And we get information
Turn it off. We have to turn it
just,
off. It's just time to turn it off.
you
I don't
do.
watch the news at all. I don't read
Yeah.
news stories. I don't read a newspaper. And trust me, if there's something going on in the world, I find out about it.
Yeah, I was going to say you do.
One of the things I do at my monthly Enlightenment Power group, at one of them that I give, we start out with in the news.
Okay.
And what I do is I'll ask somebody in the room, someone will give me a news story, they'll fill me in on it, and I'll reinterpret it. I'll tell them why it's happening, what value there is in it,
I like
what
that.
we learn from it, how we can feel safe from anything that it is that we're hearing. So the constant reinterpretation of the news with my clients is helping them to understand that they don't have to buy into fear. They don't have to protect themselves, that they are safe by believing that they are safe and healthy. And as soon as we keep deliberately and intentionally changing that lens, then things will become better. You know?
I love that.
I could be parked at the mall and leave something in my car, and they're like, why would you leave that in there? Or why do you leave your doors unlocked? Or because I'm not going to buy into the fact that I'm a potential victim. I'm not a potential victim. I am not of crime, not of disease, not of ill health, not of poor fortune. As long as I believe I'm protecting myself from being a victim, I'm not living. I'm using my energy to hold on to something rather than to create something.
I see. Right. I like that. What you said about going with the good news and also and interpreting the so-called bad news and giving the why. I've often thought that if we could just put good news on, or at least there was a station running as much good news as the stations that are running the bad news, we would all as a society would have this shift in our perspective. If it's instantaneous. I'll even notice it on the road. So, when I have, somebody, and it may not happen every time, but you can tell when somebody's stressed. I mean, I feel energy. I'm sure you feel energy. You can just feel it in the other car next to you, right? That they just want everybody in front of them to be obliterated so they can get there. And it doesn't matter if they live or not. You can just feel that energy, right? And then you let them in and you let them go.
Yes.
Now, you may not have affected them so much. They may still be in that mindset, but you let them go. But other cars behind you or around you who saw you even give kindness to that one person who maybe was not so kind, or you moved over and you let it go and you released it as opposed to engaging, they're less likely to engage.
Yes.
Now, this is, I have done this before too, where I did engage. I'm not going to get you over. You're not going to cut me off, or And then it's interesting, while the other cars all get in on it. They all react with the same, fight or flight. We all rub off on one another.
Yes.
So instead of I back off, I let them go. The other cars, all the other cars around me seem to kind of go,
okay.
They all relax too. They kind of go, oh yeah, that's the one person. It's not all of us.
Yes.
So it's interesting. It seems to be very simultaneous. We affect one another that much. And these are people in their cars. Can you imagine if we were actually verbally speaking kindness? I could see faces of others relaxing. I went in, just to give an example, I went into a restaurant last night just to go pick up some food. I walked up to the counter, and the lady at the counter, instead of acknowledging me, walked away from me to go help some other customers. Now, I know her already, and she knows me already. But the interesting part of that dynamic that just occurred was that the people sitting there looked at me like, oh my gosh, they were almost waiting for an interaction when she came back up to me. You could just feel it, you know, like, what is she going to say? How's she going to deal with that, you know? And instead I said, hi, how's it going? Good to see you. Oh, and then she said, oh yeah, it's good to see you. I said, and I could feel the collective sigh of relief over here. Like everybody's energy went back down, like, oh, there's no confrontation. It's okay. Yeah. You know, so it's just interesting how we really do affect one another. You could almost feel the room's vibration of anxiety go up, waiting for some negative interaction to occur. Yes. And when it didn't, their faces softened, they smiled, you know, it was just like, nothing bad happened here, it's okay, you know. But, you know, it was, if you could see like a newscast just running all these positive things where we could affect one another in a more positive way.
Especially for people who leave the televisions on when they are raising children.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing how much kids are picking up just by having that dialogue and that panic and chaos in the background.
Yes,
I'm
sure.
To that. If there were a good news channel, if you really feel the need to have the TV on all the time,
yeah,
news channel on, let them hear good stuff. There's a lot of things going on every neighborhood. People are doing wonderful things all the time. Let's focus on that, because what you focus on will expand. If you focus on anger, that will expand. If you focus on chaos, that will expand. If you focus on love, good intentions, people helping people, then that will expand. Imagine if we had competitions for goodness instead of competitions, you know, for who's the worst off, who's the one that deserves the house because their life is the most miserable.
Yeah.
You know, this is a person that's doing great. Let's build them a house. This is a person that's, you know, putting a lot out there and changing the world for better. This is a person who started a good news channel. Let's support those who are encouraging people to be appreciated for doing things that are good. You shouldn't have to be appreciated for it because it just feels good to do it. But if that's how we have to turn around how we are rewarding people in our society right now, let's start to reward people who are making a positive difference.
I agree.
Turn our focus on that.
I love that. I love that idea. So now with your intuition, I want to know, so you receive what has occurred. Do you have other ways you receive intuition or other information that comes to you through your intuition?
Pretty much every way that intuition can come to someone now. It comes
okay.
I can hear, see, feel. Mostly it's it's a total knowingness like you have described. It's just knowing something.
Yeah.
I've trained myself to let my consciousness leave my body. I return back to the state of consciousness that we're all at before we're born. So I can visit you before you came here. I can visit me before we came here. I see how the dynamics of our higher selves are working with each other and guiding each other. Basically, there's no limits as to where my consciousness can visit. You know, having more of the science background, I didn't even have any belief in, you know, reincarnation or having other lives. I did believe that we were finite in this experience. But before I knew it, I was stumbling onto people's past lives with really extraordinary evidence. Extraordinary evidence, thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of evidence of our existence in the past. So I don't have any doubt that I'm battling anymore. The doubt is the thing that closes the conduit. It puts the nails up. It's the way we encourage each other to believe that we are finite and separate that makes us not know how to experience truths and more comprehension.
That's right.
Little by little, those veils are lifting for more people, and they're also lifting for individuals as well.
Yeah.
I started this. I would say that I have two kinds of audience, one that opts in and one that's compelled, right? And a compelled audience is that I've been hired to speak and they're there because they have to be, or they, you know, I'm a speaker, weekend speaker at a place, and they stumble upon me and they have no idea why they're there. The opt-in audience it's easy, you know, that they understand what they're going to experience to some level. It's simple. The compelled audiences, in the first few years I was doing this, I would always have a receiving line at the end with a theme. I always have receiving lines, but these receiving lines have a theme, and I don't see this too much anymore. But it would be typically men over the age of 30 or 40. There would be some women, but it was mostly men. And they would come and say, I've never told this to anyone in my life, but this is what happened after my mother died, or this is what happened after my wife died, or this is what happened after my brother died. And they would tell me some miracle. And they're like, you're the first one I'm ever telling this to. Do you think that means that I'm still in contact with this person or this person or this person or this soul? And I found it to be like the sweetest thing, that it made me understand men even more than women. We're not allowed to have the conversation of understanding we are eternal. There's so much training people to make people think you're smart and wise and intelligent. Well, intelligence and intuition don't negate each other. Eternal mean that you can't be smart on earth, you know?
That's right.
But the interesting thing is I don't get that in my receiving lines anymore, which really indicates that in the 8 or 9 years I've been doing this, the world has become more enlightened, where men don't feel that they have to keep it to themselves if they sent their mother after she died. And that's a great thing. That means like down through osmosis, collective enlightenment is happening, even if people are not specifically focusing on it. And that's encouraging.
That's right.
That's encouraging.
That is encouraging. And I also want to note too, when you say that, intuition and intelligence don't negate one another. In fact, intuition is one of the most brilliant things that can possibly occur. It's so far brilliant than our intellect in our minds could ever be.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
It's profound in its ability to handle whatever situation, and far reaching, far in advance of what we could even possibly do ourselves. There's no way we can do it.
I've met plenty of people who might not perceive themselves as being, very intelligent or educated, who are intuitive and are very happy. I've yet to meet a person who is incredibly educated or intelligent and does not use intuition at all and is happy.
Who's very happy, right? Exactly. Yeah, you can't cut yourself off from that source and have this overwhelming feeling of peace and fulfillment, because really the answers to that are there. Yes. And that's what I really want to get people, for people to get here in doing this summit. I'm sure that there are a lot of people that are watching who just don't feel like they're so very intuitive. And, they may be seeing a lot of the experts here as, well, you're just really intuitive. You just get that. And I don't have that. So, what's a person like me supposed to do? So what I really want to do this for, and what I want to get out there for people to understand, is that you do have it. Even if you just don't feel like you do, when you start trusting that it's there and that you will hear it if you allow, and give it a chance to sort of blossom, give it a moment, you will receive something.
Yes.
And when you do, don't doubt it, just trust it and allow it to kind of just be. Hear it, let it be, don't doubt it, don't question it, just let it be. Yes. Maybe even explore it a little bit. Maybe it's prompted you to do something. Maybe just do it. Even if it maybe, brings up some fear or whatever, just do it and see what happens. It's a great way to test it out. Yes. And then kind of go from there. And it's amazing, even just the smallest little prompting. And, I've said this before, the smallest little asking of you to do could lead to something quite beautiful in your life. So it's there for everyone. It really is. People have varying degrees of it, but it really, and sometimes I think because you are especially gifted, you and I have this intuition. It seems that yours is manifesting in a different way than mine is manifesting, but and yet it's there so that we can facilitate. It's like a facilitating, the ability to facilitate others into experiencing a better and more whole life. And maybe even helping them to understand that they have this as well, and that they can help facilitate the growth of their own intuition and guidance, so that their lives don't have to be so difficult and unfulfilling, it can be quite fulfilling here on earth. We don't have to wait until we pass on to have beauty, you know. It can be beautiful here also. There's struggle, you know, there's beauty too.
Yes.
So how are we doing on time? Okay, so just want to make sure that you know, we had a good amount of discussion on this topic. I do. If you were to sum up something, you know, a message that you wanted to give the audience for, you know, intuition and you know, what it is and how or what it can do for you in your life, we give you the opportunity to sort of, you know, give that gift.
Sure. Oh, one of the analogies that I use about intuition is like back in the 1950s when a family would have their family meal together. The plate was pretty much comprised of, here's a big chunk of the plate is meat, and then a little starch, and then there's a little vegetable on the side. And that's what we ate. And at that time, we thought we were, you know, we were eating healthily. But we now know that we want to go a little more on the veggies, a lot less on the meat, and the carb, hey, it's okay. And basically, intuition and intellect are the same. We got to give up the meat. Don't be so reliant on the meat and go more to the source of the vegetables, which is going to give us life. Intuition is the vegetables. It's the thing born of the earth. It's abundant. It'll keep growing there for us. It's never ending. So eat a lot more vegetables and a lot of meat. That's basically the way you want to look at the intellect versus intuition.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
The infinite wisdom of the universe is designed so that when we are honoring and respecting intuition and the value that it has, it gives us encouragement all the time. It gives us signs, messages, good happenings, things that we might see as coincidence, but that are very gratuitous and are helping us to get toward what our goal set is.
Absolutely.
If you keep your eyes and ears open to the evidence supporting the value of using intuition, then you'll see you're helping it to grow even more. And that's the goal. Keep the evidence, and that way you can help to let go of the doubt.
So true. It absolutely. And just, and I like to say miracles. I mean, there's just some of the things that happened when I followed my intuition. I finally did that moment of surrender in my life. I was just blown away, you know, just blown away.
Miracles.
They really are. They really are. I mean, there's no other way to look at it, no other way to explain some of the things that occurred. So I want to give that gift to other people of that experience, because it really is quite beautiful, and it can be very humbling as well. So, and now, before we wrap up, are you interested in giving a gift for the summit?
Sure.
Okay.
I'd love to. The very first book that I did receive through this conduit is called The Answers to Your Questions About Life, and it's designed to help you remove the masks and layers and to help you to love yourself more and understand and explore reality more. And I give it a free ebook. I think it's either a PDF or a Kindle version.
Okay.
And basically, you just go to KarenGarvey.com is my website, and then it's /free gift.
Wonderful. Okay, great. And we'll have a link for that then on the summit here, so that people can click on that and receive that. So thank you for having that.
To freegift@KarenGarvey.com works as well.
Okay, great.
Off to you, whichever version it is that you prefer.
Okay. Sounds great. Karen, thank you so much. A wonderful interview and a wonderful journey that we just had today. So really, really appreciate you having the conversation with me. And thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Great job. Great job.
Thank you so much.